Marlene 3D History. M2W Productions, L.L.C.
Yes, come in. Good morning. You are with the Navy? You say that I am required down at the Red Rover? Let me finish up here and I will be on down in about an hour. You say there is a committee ready to question me. Okay, in 1 hour, I'll be there. We shall be free. Yes, we shall be free. Yes, we shall be free when the Lord shall appear. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to come and to tell of my whereabouts for the last month or so. I am a ex-slave from the Bradford Plantation down in Rutherford County, Tennessee. I understand you want me to tell you whether my work above the Red Rover was worthy of the time that I spent above her. Well, before I tell you about my service, I would like to tell you a little bit about how I came out of slavery. We had heard that the Federals were north of the Bradford Plantation and that the missus was going to have some of the slaves to load her possessions on a wagon, and that one of the slaves was going to be her driver. The wagon was loaded and her children, and they were headed a little bit further south to a refugee camp. But they also said that she may be able to go on and stay with some relatives that was a little further south in that same area. Well, in the quarters, we were trying to make up our mind whether we were going to continue to work with the overseer and stay on the plantation, or whether we were going to run. If we decided to run, that meant that if we got caught, that we could be severely punished, or worse. I thought, and I decided, well, I was going to run because I didn't have any children. And I had been helping some of the older women when the children were born on the plantation. I would help to deliver babies. I decided I didn't have no reason to stay. So I put together a little ditty bag and with salt pork and corn pones, and we were running. We ran along the Tennessee River and the Cumberland. We would see some of the rebels, or when we got a little further north, we ran in some of the Federals. The Federals asked us where the rebels were located. Sometimes they would take what we had in our little ditty bag. When we got just a little bit north of the mouth of the Duck River, the ironclad let us on board. Oh, we were called some of any kind of name that you could think of. But the name that we liked the best was Contraband. When we got aboard an ironclad and it took us on up the Cumberland River and it emptied out there at a place called Paducah, Kentucky. We knew that if the Cumberland emptied into the Ohio River, that if we went to the east, that we would still be going north. But the ironclad turned and went south. And it went by a fort called Fort Massac. And then it kept going, and then the hull of the ship hit rocks. They called that the chain of rocks. And it was headed on south. And we knew that if we got down to a place called Cairo or Fort Defiance, that we would be on the south side of the Mason-Dixie line. But our ironclad stopped. It was in the evening of December of 1862. Oh, when we got off that ship, they fed us some beans and corn pones. They told us if we went on down to Diamond Street, we could find a place to live. All we had on our backs was the clothing that we wore off that plantation. Yes. We had food for that evening. We didn't own a plow. We didn't own a piece of land. Everything, even the clothes on our backs, still belonged to the masters that was in the South. But as they were taking us down to Diamond Street to stay in this little shanty, and the soil was frozen, it was sticking, and the grass that they had gathered for us to put what we could over it was sticking through. Yes. We looked up through the cracks in the roof, and we could see the stars. We were worried about where we were going to get our next meal. Well, they said that there were some sisters that were sent from the Sanitary Commission from the Notre Dame of Indiana that had answered the call of President Abraham Lincoln to come help with the care of the wounded and sick soldiers. They said they were looking for women that knew how to handle the midwifery on the plantation. And I had learned from some of the older women how to be a midwife. We went down and they told us that once we decided to sign up, that we could be a laundress or first class boy or coal heaver, whatever was needed. We could volunteer, and we decided, well, yes, I'm going to go on down there and I'm going to volunteer. At least I get me some food so that I could eat. But when we got down to the Red Rover and Sergeant Bixby, they hired me as a nurse. I was to be paid $8 a month. $8. But I never worked one day as a laundress or first class boy. I worked as a nurse. Well, Sister Valencia and Valencia and Sister St. Joe, they taught us how to do our reverses. They taught us how to clean behind the soldiers. Because when we first went above the Red Rover, it was clean as it could be. And we learned from the sisters. And the sisters, they would have a pad and they would write down what they told us to do. But we did not know how to read or write. We did not know how to read or write, so we had to remember everything in our minds. Whatever they told us, we had to remember it. And we went to work. We rolled our sleeves up. We got aboard the Red Rover and we went back up to Paducah and we picked up some of the soldiers and brought them back to the Marine Way Hospital. We loaded the Red Rover with all kinds of supplies, and we were going to go a little bit further south towards the end of January of 1863. We had already heard that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed on January 1st of 1863, and that the president had said that any state that had seceded from the Union, every slave in that state would be free on January 1st. So that meant that I was free now that January 1st had gone by. Yes. And the Red Rover had taken on its supplies and was headed on to the south. General Grant had already been in Mound City and Carroll and had taken his army and headed south. And he had taken his men to prepare for fighting. And in February, he started to gather these men and get prepared to try to take Vicksburg. We went down to Fort Hyman, and the Red Rover parked there at the mouth of the White River. And just as we were getting ready to leave, and the soldiers, the army had taken Fort Hyman, the bombs had went off and went into the kitchen and into the soldiers' quarter where we were taking care of them. It didn't hurt nobody. But the ball had went through, and we fixed it. And we took these injured soldiers back up to Mound City. We again supplied the ship, loaded the ship with supplies. And we headed back south. This is how it was when we first started on the Red Rover. And we continue to pick up the injured, take care of the sick, those that had dysentery, that typhoid fever, diarrhea. We did everything within our power to keep them well. And sometimes the best and strongest were the ones that